Welcome to the Courage to Live podcast. My name is Josh Bitsko. I'm a retired police captain with 24 years of experience. Currently, I travel the country and I teach people about leadership, resilience, and courage. So, in today's podcast, I'm going to talk about basically, in generalizations, in short terms, what it was like to go from a rookie cop all the way to being retired. We're basically going to talk about some of the misconceptions I had about the job and then, things that I learned and things I wish I knew when I was a young officer that I learned later in life. So I remember getting out of the academy and just being so excited about the job. Now, the excitement really never waned for me when I was in patrol, when I was out working the streets. But I remember just going out there on my first shift and turning around and looking and seeing that it's over and like, oh my gosh, that was so quick that those 10 hours just flew by. And it was like that for a long time. I went to a graveyard squad. I was on graveyard with basically 10 people from my academy. So we were all friends. We were all making a ton of mistakes and learning from those mistakes. We had the ability to make them. I was young. I was 21 as a new cop, which was always kind of interesting because I would go on like a domestic violence and I'm giving people marital advice when I was still like living with my parents because I was buying a house. And I'll tell you that I had to learn to talk to people while on the job. So I think one of the things that I wish that, I had, I don't really want to change anything because I was able to retire young and start this business, but a little more life experience in dealing with people. Because at 21, was never in the military, only had a couple of jobs before policing. I really hadn't learned how to talk to people, how to show empathy. And so it's something that I had to develop through the course of those first year or two on the job. So, a couple complaints. I remember usually for me, I would be condescending or, it was more a tone issue that I would get a complaint. I never got any serious complaints. I always policed with honor, but, my mouth would get me in trouble. So I really wish I would have taken the time to learn, just the how to talk to people. Another thing that I really didn't know well is how to get in shape for the job of policing. I was so skinny. When I graduated the academy, I weighed 165 pounds at 6'2". And so I was a beanstalk. And there's a couple things with that. Like, yeah, people might not think they could get away from me running because I was fast. But, I wish that I would have learned how to build muscle at a younger age. I just chalked it up to, I was a hard gainer. I'm lifting all the time and not getting any weight. And it really took till years later till I learned how to track what I was actually eating to learn how to gain muscle and gain weight. And I think a lot of people have similar experiences with fitness or bodybuilding or anything like that. But, that was something that I wish I would have known because if you're on the bigger side, more muscular, that can be a de-escalation technique in and of itself. Also, I really wish I would have gotten into jujitsu earlier because it would have made, use of forces a lot more safe for me and the suspect. A lot of the defensive tactics that we learn as cops are effective, but we just don't practice them enough. You do defensive tactics once a quarter. I used to teach them. But whereas in comparison, I would train jujitsu later in life 3 times a week. And, I actually became very proficient at that, part of controlling people, whether it was on the ground or standing up. So I wish I would have gotten into jujitsu younger. Now, this may date me, but jujitsu was not near as popular then. I was boxing a lot, but I really, that wasn't a thing unless you were one of those, diehard UFC fans and 1, 2, 3 with the Gracies and everything like that. Some of the advice that I would have given my younger self is, this may make me sound like the old guy looking back is, really enjoy your time on the streets. Because as later in life, as I promoted, had jobs that were, a little more administrative or higher pressure, I would look back fondly of my time as just a patrol officer on graveyard and, really enjoy the camaraderie and the excitement of the calls. And, really the last thing that I would give myself, the last piece of advice is start therapy now because, sometimes it gets lost in the excitement and the fun of the job. that you don't realize some of the traumatic things that you're experiencing. And you joke about it, but over time, those build up. I'm a firm believer in resilience over wellness. And I know I have another podcast about that, but building the strength to withstand the traumas of a career in law enforcement early in my career would have made went through later in life so much easier to navigate, because eventually all of the things that I've been through really stacked up, and I just ended up becoming numb, and I really wasn't dealing with things like I needed to. I put a lot of effort into my physical health throughout my career, and I really neglected my mental health. So there's one piece of advice that I would give my young self. It would be to start therapy. The most that I would be out is an hour a month, but really building those resilience tools for myself. So later in life, I could use those tools when I needed them more. Thank you for listening to the podcast today. If you liked what you heard, please share it with a friend or subscribe or leave a review down below. And thank you for spending time with me.